pieces of information. One, outstanding reimbursables as of now to Bank of Uganda. Yes, we have a figure which they've given us. Let them give us, as of now, what are the outstanding reimbursables to Bank of Uganda. Second one, we have a figure provided by the Auditor General of the domestic debt per vote. But this is from Auditor General for last financial year, which is 70 trillion for what they have not paid per vote.
7.5,
For 7.5 trillion. I also want them to provide with us vote by vote primary obligations, because they have now dealt with the last financial year. What are the debt obligations per vote as of now for the domestic suppliers? Because we are worried that with this kind of trend continuing, even if we go parish mode, but we are holding on to something like 7-8 trillion for people who have provided government with the services, and the government has not paid them. You are simply stifling growth of the economy, and that's why we need this data, so that one, we can be proactive about it, move it forward to a logical conclusion, so that we force finance in a given way to clear our domestic people. They are paying Wazungu through treasury operations, but the people who are supplying government are not being paid. Mortgages are running, they are losing property. So we want finance to give us as per now what's their domestic debt obligations per vote.
Yes,
I beg to move, Chair.
thank you. The motion
It's seconded with something else, Chair.
an amendment.
Yes,
because I wanted Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi. Members, I wanted Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi to adjust, not say Wazungu, because even Wazungu who have supplied or amendment is done. Yes.
Chair,
okay.
Thank you. Chair, in the amendment, one of the things I'm keenly interested in is the country's actual resource envelope that they collect in that given year. Because, let them provide for us.
Other than loans?
Yes.
On the supply side, what is the resource envelope?
The money that we spend, what is the actual money? What is the actual figure URA collected? What is the actual figure we borrowed internally? What's the actual figure we borrowed externally? Because if there is a huge deficit in cash, meaning this side we are not, there should be a very huge deficit as well, perhaps in the loans, in URA. We could have a figure of URA collecting 20, maybe 5 trillion. But yet in reality they are collecting 20. So we want the actuals, to compare the actuals.
Yes, Honorable Deputy Chair.
Chair, I want to re-echo what the Shadow Minister. Chair, Uganda is a private sector-led economy. And having domestic areas which concerns the private sector to the tune of about 7 point something. It's a big slap on the faces of the private sectors players in this country, because now we are threatened with big partners, donors like World Bank not going to give us money. We are threatened with our own budgets going to be cut. But if this money is paid to the private sector, I think they can help spur the growth of the economy. Because then we should be able, then what the General proposed yesterday to expand the tax base would be possible. How much revenue, tax revenue, would be tax revenue are we losing by private sector not plowing back 7 point something billion into their businesses? I think it's something we should not shy from, because our budgets are going to be cut. They would rather be cut by the private sector play, their role of accelerating growth and development in this country.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think the motion has been set. Yes. And is seconded. This information we are going, it can't be now. We can give them like 1 week and have this information available to us. But before that, I will expect he will make mention of that. But there were questions that were put. I will request the Honourable Minister to answer them, and then we conclude.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. After the audit, because we have to ascertain how much they are. So I want to ask that you allow us. We wait for the audit to take place and thereafter. No, the audit will end in December. Then two, on what my former vice chair and my friend Jen Pachuto is saying, finance, even when before I went there was this perception that there is money, there will always be money at finance. Colleagues, this is not the case. I have interrogated the Treasury. I know how it operates. And some of these things, we are not failing to pay or to give support private sector by choice. It is because the money is limited. The president said in Kororo that out of the 52 trillion budget, about 1.8 trillion is going for debt repayment. Yes, a reconciled figure will take it to even 20. Yes, it will take it to. So all these realities, you as finance committee, we want you to be our allies. Let us be hit by other members from other committees, but not from this committee, which knows the realities of the situation under which we are operating. Chair, there is another issue regarding what Max Ochai raised will be responded to by Accountant General because it is more of technical in nature. On the position of Cabinet, what we have given you is what works, what the law provides for. I don't want to go further beyond that because I'm not supposed to disclose how we debate in Cabinet. I took an oath not to do that. But what we have provided to you is what we think and what we believe the law provides for, and that is how we manage your resources. Another point is on someone raised an issue on whether the Treasury single account speaks with the Public Finance Management Act. Yes, it does. Because the Treasury single account is just pay who, pay so and so, pay like that. So what guides who to pay and what is the Public Finance Management Act. Honorable Mara, I want to thank him for always supplementing me and making my life easy in the committees of Parliament.
I understand the issues.
We complement each other. What he has said is we project to receive revenue in a timely manner. Sometimes disbursements delay. Karim was saying, you have a loan, you have what, you have entered into agreements. Cases of delayed disbursements do exist. So sometimes the timing issues, Bank of Uganda normally helps us because we cannot afford to default on these obligations. When they follow you and the revenues have not yet been realized, Bank of Uganda redeems on our behalf. And then when we get the money, we pay Bank of Uganda. We have a working arrangement which he was talking about. We normally do reconciliations at the end of the year. We may close with a positive or a negative. But for the last 3 years, we have been crossing in negative with them. For the previous two, one was at 3.3, and this year, June, was 4.8 trillion, which we must pay. In the budget, Chufumbi said it was clear. He said we have 1.5 trillion, which is not enough. And that's why you are seeing in this quarter, most of your entities are telling you finance has not provided us money. Most of these debt obligations, we must get them out of our way in this quarter. And next quarter, we are able to make payments for service delivery and other things. So this is not what we wish to have, but this is the reality of our situation. We operate a cash budget. Sometimes cash comes, sometimes cash does not come, and we have ever-growing obligations, which sometimes are unavoidable. What else do I have to respond? On the question of miscellaneous revenue will be handled by Accountant General. Cash shortfalls, what is a challenge, and we shall live with it for some time. Budget cuts, all these things, I cannot really deny that they will not happen, considering the current circumstances. We are talking about raising revenue. Yes, we have our revenue targets, but collection of revenue is not a standalone. When there is a slowdown in the economy, especially business, on the business side, you don't expect to get the revenue anticipated. When some of the things that have happened are happening, you don't expect revenue to rise when some aspects in the economy have gone down. So, as a result of all this, cash will always be, sometimes we don't realize it, and if we don't, the first thing we do, what do we do? Cut travel abroad by this. Cut workshops by this. We apply principles that sometimes you find as cut. So these are the things we need to really appreciate how to live with. And lastly, on the information, on the figures about balances at the end of the year. Here he is. His job is to prepare accounts when the year ends. He will tell you, I have collected this, I have spent this, the balance is this. All this information is public information, which we normally provide to the to the Auditor General, to who all stakeholders are normally provided with this information. And if Parliament wishes to also have more, I know you have, but we can provide the latest information we have in as far as our reports are concerned, for the member to be satisfied and maybe to enable him use it for further actions. And yes, I think let me invite the
Attorney General. There is something you mentioned at the beginning, and most members were not yet here. True, we are going to have a retreat to, understand the way we work with the ministry, and the minister said it is going to be led by the committee, finance committee, along with the budget committee and the committee on national economy. And this came out as a result of my prompt questioning of how are we going to absorb the shocks of the declarations of the World Bank over cutting support to us. And he also mentioned, and I would like to request that he reiterates this. He mentioned the fact that he's going to invite us to engage us to see how we revise even our budget. And it is important that it comes out clear and even come up with supplementaries, adjustments of the budget, which might eventually even affect your emoluments and all that. Honorable Minister.
I just wanted to find out, is that very different from the one of the 16th, 15th?
No, had you stated the meeting of the 15th, 16th? No. There was an
There's
earlier
another
communication
meeting
that was moving
There was a
around.
meeting on the 15th.
No, that meeting has been postponed.
Yeah. It has been postponed and we agreed it
That
will,
is the same meeting
which
were
will be
postponed
which
to
will be put in the first week of September. I just wanted
around 1st
of September.
around 1st of September.
I wanted you, Honorable Minister, what I requested, that you talk about how this requires our meeting again because of these effects of cutting funding from World Bank, so that the committee is prepared to work with you.
Mr. Chairman, financial management revolves. Some of us who are professionals in that area, we know how far we have worked with the evolutions in financial management for some years. And as a result, there is a need for us to keep interacting, exchanging ideas, providing information to the stakeholders. And because of this, we are proposing that we have an interaction with you outside this environment, where we can freely interact, ask questions, and other things in the evening, so that we familiarize better.
That is very good.
So we will be coming to you somewhere in September to propose how we go about this. Then on the latest developments, we took the decision and we are firm, but we knew, and the President told us, that we are going this route. Should it develop, should it bring consequences, then we should be able, we should be able to bear. We agreed in Kororo, I was there personally. All of us voted aye. Yes. So, the moment of truth has come. World Bank has said, for the existing projects, they will continue. But the new projects and those which we have been working on are going to be halted. So what this means, the budget we did in financial year 2023-24 had elements which have been affected. Greater Kampala metropolitan area, among other projects which are funded, which were to be funded by the bank. So we are thinking, we are still gathering ideas about what to do in line with adjusting the budget. But this requires approval by Parliament. So we shall be coming back to you. We are, at the same time, we are negotiating with the World Bank. Should we fail to agree, then we shall make some decisions on the budget, which we shall bring to you, to your attention for approval. So this was just to prepare your minds to get ready for the moment of truth and the tough times ahead. Because cutting the budget will have serious consequences on our operations as government, as parliament, and as everybody who is involved in the running of government. I thank you.
The Honourable Minister has answered most of the issues. So the few ones that were taken, again I want to add on to the issue of the Treasury single account being within the law. If you go to section 33 It's very clear. The Secretary to Treasury shall prescribe the framework within which votes shall conduct their banking and cash management activities. 2, there is 1, and that's where they were saying now the local government is very clear. Section 33, subsection 6. For the avoidance of doubt, the Bank of Uganda shall be the depository of cash for current and development operations of the vote. So that's very clear. So what people are saying, no, you see, we are now against decentralization, but the law is here. Now the issue of and the the other issue was on the spent balance on at consolidation. I do not understand, honorable members, but what I explained is that we are. No, I'm.
Don't understand. Here, for example,
the Editor General said, no, you indicate it as revenue. And then they came back and queried us that you are calling it revenue. What exchange did you give in return? So that's when we agreed that after all, the Accountant General can guide on the accounting of accounting principles. So we are guided that these monies are balances, which for us we include as inflows into the consolidated fund for purposes of meeting the appropriation.
Just clarification on that.
For meeting the appropriation. And so in quotes, and if I can put in bracket, it's revenue, a non-tax revenue, which comes to the consolidated fund for meeting appropriation expenditure.
My point is, who now appropriates this money? Because it comes back into the statement. Because it does not come to Parliament.
What I'm saying, you have appropriated. You have appropriated 59 trillion. Now, when we add up all those NTR, the dividends that come in, loans, taxes, we still come. Actually, in most cases, we are less than 59. Yes. So, in short, it is already in. So, if we are going to expend over and above 59, we would come back to you. But in short, we are not. So, we are still within that.
Accountant General, just one thing. For accounting purposes, we asked this question yesterday. Why don't we move this money to a suspense account and then reconcile as the invoices come in, instead of keeping it in the one treasury account?
I think that's
would it require changing the policy around it?
Well,
or management of single accounts?
You see, Honorable, what I had explained is that in some other jurisdictions, they have. I think you see sometimes it's inevitable. And I think that's where the biggest problem came in, where there was a problem at the office of the OPM, and the accounting officers were arraigned before court. Now, once you are arraigned before court, we cancel you as an accounting officer.
So is that an example of the OPM?
Yes, that's the OPM. And I think that's what the biggest problem is.
So how are you managing?
We gave a new accounting officer who came in, but then by the time she came in, they couldn't complete the certain transaction. But by law, once you have not done any transaction, really we can't go back on that. Now, revision of work plans is that once we give a supplementary, so now when we come to the next year, because as I say, for us, the warrant expires, the appropriation expires. Now, when we give you a supplementary in the following year that relates to the old, you must adjust your work plans. And that is what the spirit of the law. And usually, you see now, especially for unspent balance, this is also an explanation that I give, is that we approve budgets in May. Now, the money from Tocho or Washington or from where it will come in August. So how do you appropriate that money in May? Are you going to anticipate that Washington will not spend their money and return to me? So it's a bit of a difficult, because that's what the Auditor General was saying. No, you anticipate, put it, and it's not possible because we complete the budget process in May. And we can now not anticipate that Washington is not going to spend part of their money for us to appropriate. Net credit to government. Well, I guess this is the old thinking that we used to have at that time, where we used to say, we can still afford to to pay this equivalent. But for us now, budget is actually based, not budget, payments is based on actual cash, not anticipating. Because in the old process is that there was I don't know, maybe those times they would assume that you have money all the time. So we would have what you call a net credit position. It Max knows that. So now that is we could project and start spending, issuing cash limit based on that cash we think is here. I guess the rest my honorable minister has answered.
Thank you so much, and I think with that we
Honorable
come
Chair.
to
Yes.
miscellaneous revenue. Okay.
So miscellaneous revenue, something. So we get sometimes small dividends. The company has paid the dividend. We get sometimes hedging, where we have hedging, and they pay us back, hedging, swaps. Those are small monies. But that's all those come into the consolidated fund. And as I said, that for us, as long as, because we appropriate revenue and expenditure, so as long as we are still within the limit you have appropriated, all those small monies, they just come in, and we think that's that.
Do you think we are going to end with those one? Okay.
Thank you very much, Chair. Explanation of how the warrants that eventually those that are invoiced at the close of the year, at the beginning of the financial year. And that would mean that would bring a balance to zero in terms of what would be due. But what we've been noticing, the areas of government
should be availed, and we are going to communicate through our clerk. Other than the information the minister has said can only be availed after reconciliation, which is after the audit, which is about 30th of December. But the other information that you have,
that was the minister's explanation, but they are figures.
Not respond. The
Which one?
that where the cause of that big hole in cash, where is it coming? Because URA, the shortfall from URA is about $1 billion in the.
I think that is part of the information that I was see according to the Appropriation Act that we passed. There is monies we anticipated from loans, both domestic and external, and the revenue targets that we are giving to URA and all the other issues. So as of 30th June, what was our position? How did we perform?
So we can bring a report to that. Yes.
Yes.
We can
So
bring
actually,
a report.
yes. If that report can come earlier, I will be very glad. And yes, thank you so much. Members, thank you.
Over this. Of course, travel was removed. We will begin to see certain capital expenditures which are not critical. There are a wide range of capital expenditures which might not be critical, might be long term. We can deal with them now. There might be some what we call non-wage budget lines that might not be critical. We might affect those ones. Those ones are actually cuts across all MDAs and ministries. So it will be critical for us to look at them and study them without making a proclamation now that this one will be affected, not this one. I think we need to set priorities. We look at all those non-wage budget lines and those development budget lines, which are not critical for now, because we can prioritize.
Do you see it coming as far as salaries are concerned? Because the president had made a hint that, this could end up coming to your salaries reductions.
Personally, I don't think salaries will be affected. Although salary takes about 7 trillion in the entire government. 7 trillion in a budget of 52.7 trillion. So it will still give us room, because salary is about wellness, about welfare, about people's lives. We can look at, as I mentioned, on non-wage, and we can look at some development budget lines, which are not critical, might not be immediate, or we might delay some of those development budget lines, and then we deal with it in a consequent financial year.
Okay, thank you very much.
And foremost, this World Bank cancelling debt is a good thing. I hear a lot of people are moving around saying it is terrible for Uganda. It's because we are living in a state of artificial economic high, far away from the reality of what our economy is able to provide, far away from what we are able to meet. Consequence of this, most Ugandans don't know. But the impact is going to be so bad because we're already an indisciplined society. Look, before you even talk about World Bank cancelling debt, government in the last financial year, we are yet to get the figures, they failed to pay people who supplied them to a tune of 7.8 trillion in domestic areas. People who supplied government. Government, before World Bank came in, they failed to reimburse money borrowed from Bank of Uganda, 4.8 trillion. And I have a list with me in my file. I have a list of government votes that accumulated that debt, including State House, including Ministry of Finance itself, 400 billion. Therefore, this World Bank thing, for once, is going to instill discipline in the way we manage our economy. It's going to be a very hard and rough road, but we needed this to go through. So that for once we live in reality. I mean, we have borrowed money with this pretext of World Bank helping us, that every single Ugandan is indebted to a tune of 90, I don't have the figures, but it will take us 93 years for us to pay back the money we have borrowed. I hold 17 trillion, now going to be 20 trillion of our budget, is for debt service. So, if we can get through a shock and awe process that make us come back to reality, that's a good thing.
So as we come to reality.
So for me, I'm not even among those who have that conventional view. No, you don't have any areas to cut. We long suggested that we needed an open heart surgery on the economy of Uganda and the way we manage it. Open heart surgery. Because we are wrong on many perspectives. We are like fellows who went to a supermarket, okay, and collect whatever you want and put on the trail. Then you reach the counter, you have no money to pay. Then you say, can you lend me? You in the line, can you lend me? This is how the economy works. Therefore, the World Bank thing, I don't go for their motive. I mean, look at the budget, you look at the figures. You budget 49 trillion, effectively your cash collection at 38. But next year you come back and now say, we want a budget of 50-something trillion. What kind of fellows are we? You look, these are figures you have. So we've been wrongly budgeting, giving a country false information, and now let this bring us back on earth. And even the president bragging around, I've grown the economy, people are okay, people everything. Let him come back to the economy and then people know this guy has been lying to them. So for me, I don't have your conventional answers. That is so we go and cut. I know areas where you can cut. First of all, can Museveni behave? The president himself. We can go for classified expenditure. Don't go for now roads, national medical stores, local government. Local government, the whole budget of local government is 6 trillion. So don't go for that. You go for classified expenditure. For once, can't we live with the guns and we have, with the tear gas we have? You know, that's for me the first area. But will this parliament have the stomach to go for classified expenditure? Or will government, even the technocratic people, suggest to Museveni that we cut classified expenditure because it finances political patronage? So the first thing is crush political patronage. You have structural things you need to think about the whole country. So for me, that is one area. The other area is we can go big on all these big salaries of whatever we pay for. We are in a crisis. Can we go for everybody and say we cut down their wages, especially not the teachers, not the medical workers, not those ones, but members of parliament? Eh? Can we for once say we will not buy any new vehicle? Can we all say there will not be luxurious travels abroad? So there are things you can go in our economy. The economy has been carrying an excess money of around 5 trillion every financial year in financial extravagance. So you don't need to adjust too much to alleviate that nanny. You simply go for the low-hanging fruit. But for me, this is a blessing in disguise. What we will get as a country out of it is that we will learn to live on our own. If our fathers don't throw us out to their home, we never grow up. Okay? If children are not given, put in nanny paper on breastfeeding, so many of the lazy ones never get out of it. So this is the same thing. So Ugandans should rejoice actually that for once we can live without borrowed money. No, bannayuganda basanyuke olw'ensonga nti ebiseera ebisinga byonna tubadde tubeerawo nga tulinga ballooni, empikemu omukka gye bafumu neevuuka mu bbanga n'olowooza nti nnyonyi. So ekiseera kituuse tukomewo wansi tubeere ki kye tuteekeddwa okuba. Kati bajeti eno gye tuyina tubadde olwedde eggwanga twalwala dda nga bwe tugenze mu bino byonna bya World Bank tuyina omwaka ogwaggwa abantu abasupplyinga gavumenti bannayuganda trillion 7, sente ze twewola mu Bank of Uganda trillion 4 n'endala nnyingi zo nga sinsasule. N'olwekyo abazungu bano okutuggyako obuyambi buno bugenda kuddamu kuzzaayo abatufuga bonna. Tutunule mu bajeti eno nti bino bye tubadde twetwala nti kyetuli si kyetuli. Tuddeyo omanyi bwe tuba nga tusobola kalo tuddeyo tulye akalo kaffe. Bwe tuba tusobola muwogo waffe nga Museveni bwe yagamba tuddeyo tulye muki muwogo waffe. Naye kakati n'omwana omuto kijja mutwalira emyaka 93 okusasula ebbanja. So okutujja ku mabeere bw'ovaawo sajja kula. So World Bank kino kyekoze kibi oyinza okitunamu ng'ekibi naye ndowooza gwe mukisa gwokka ogugenda okuleetawo empisa mu byanabyafuzi. Kubanga kati ffe tubadde n'abakulembeze buli mwaka n'olimba bannansi nti ogula emmundu za trillion 4 buli mwaka n'ogenda nti gw'ogula mundu n'ova okwo n'otunuulira bapulezidenti baffe ate tulina bye tusobola n'okutunda. Kati zino emmotoka malidaadi zino ez'abakulu zino ezo zonna tusobola oga nti tuzitunde tufunemu kasente. Ennyonyi ya pulezidenti naye tusobola ogikuba akatale. Yes, kandi pulezidenti w'abaavu naye agendera mu nnyonyi ebeera muli baavu pulezidenti agendera mu nnyonyi eyo tusobola ogitwala bulungi nnyo mu katale ne bagituwaamu sente. Emmotoka ya sipiika erimu sente ziwera. Pulezidenti alina olukoloddoli lw'emmotoka lungi nnyo tumugamba atambuleko n'entono eso ajja tukendeeza n'ejjaamu. So waliwo ebintu bingi bye tusobola okukola ne tufuna sente nga tetugenze na wala nnyo. Kati osanga buli government officer atambuza emmotoka 3 abo bapaakingeko ezimu. So emisaala gy'abakulu abanene for once tuddemu tugitunuulire nti naye mmwe mufuna mmeka. So nze ndowooza kino gwe mukisa gwe tuyina okutegeeza bakulembeze baffe timubadde mwewola bwewozi tuddeyo ng'Abasudaani be bagamba tukozese tulyeke twerimidde tukozese ekitono kitusobola.
Yes, we've all seen what the World Bank has come out with, and as Parliament we expected this when we were passing this law. We expected to see various sectors affected by funding from most of the foreign donors. So when you look at the external financing that we get and budget support we are getting, that is figures we are talking about close to 10 to 11 trillion shillings that is coming in from the external finance of the IMF, the World Bank. So we expect all this money to reduce, and we expect to have a smaller resource envelope than we have right now. So we have to come back to the drawing board as Parliament. We need to look at how best we can tame our appetite, how best we can revise the expenditure of the country, because the resource envelope has significantly reduced. So some of the sectors that I think we need to look at, we are looking at defense, we are looking at security, because this takes the lion's share of our budget. Apart from debt repayments, the money that is going to the classified expenditure and defense and police, it's a lot of money. And Uganda, we are a bit peaceful. I can state that we are a bit okay, and we can look at how best we can reduce some of these figures. We are seeing some entities and ministries with exaggerated budgets. When you look at, for example, what is coming through the Ministry of Trade, they are compensating, they're investing money in things that don't return profit to the country. We've seen supplementary budgets come. We've given billions of shillings to Atiak Sugar. We've given billions of shillings to Sudhir Ruparelia to do his conference centers. This is money that I believe we can now revise, because we need to look at the priorities of the country. What are our priorities? Because World Bank has been financing most of the priority areas in education, in health, in infrastructure through roads. So these should still remain our key priorities, but we need to find money. We need to find ways of taming the appetites of government entities. There was a ban on agencies purchasing vehicles, but when you look at the budgets of the previous financial, some of the entities went ahead and bought vehicles, brand new vehicles, and this is a lot of money. When you look at the entire government, I believe this is money we can save and channel back to the most essential sectors.
Okay, honorable. Basalewa kubanga minister agamba nti kati tulina ate okutunamuko mu budget yaffe tusale wano tusale nawali.
Ffe ng'ababaka we twali tuyisa ekiteeso kino ekya anti-homosexuality, twali tukisuubira era twali tusuubira obuyambi okendeera obuva mu badonors ne financers bano abatuwola ssente okuva ebweru, external financers. W'otunuulira ssente ze batuwola, twogera mu butabalika obusukka mu 10 nga zino zijja in form of budget support, nga zijja in terms of external financing ne grants ze batuwa ng'eggwanga. So ssente zino wezikendeera oba wezitajja nga twali tuzisuubira, tulina okuddamu ng'ababaka twetegereze budget yaffe, tugezeeko okusala wa ssente zino we zibadde zirina okulaga. So otunuulira projects zino eza World Bank ebadde financing projects ezikwata ku omuntu omunnayuganda mwenyini, omuli ebyamasomero, omuli health sector, amalwaliro, omuli n'enguudo. So ssente we zitagenda mu projects zino, tulina making sure ti programs zino tuzifinansinga ng'eggwanga zisobole okugenda mu maaso, kuba tetulina ngeri gye tusobola kulemererwa kusomesa baana baffe kuba batusazeeko ssente. Tetusobola kulemererwa kuzimba nguudo kuba twetaaga okutambula, wabula kati tulina otunuulya sectors ezimu ssente we zibadde zigenda nga tezeetaaga. Tulabye gavumenti ng'investinga mu programs ezimu, projects eziteetaagisa ze tutatwala kubanga essential. Tunuulya ssente ezigenze mu Atiak Sugar Works, buli financial year bateekayo ssente, billions and billions of money. Tunuulira ssente ezigenze mu Sudiru Munyonyo, tunuulira ssente billion ezisuka mu 2 ezagenda mu Morocco Construction Company, tunuulira ssente ezigenze mu kugula amamotoka mu ministries ne agencies ezimu ezitali urgent for the meantime, tunuulira ssente ezigenda mu sectors eza defense ne security. Otunuulira ssente zino nyingi nnyo kuba be batwala kumpi lion's share ya ssente budget gye tuba tuyisiza. So twetaaga okudda ku drawing board, turevisinge, tukendeezeeko, tuteme ebintu bye tuteetaaga mu kaseera kano, tuprioritizinge ebyo World Bank byebadde eteekamu kuba bye bikwata ku muntu omunnayuganda owa wansi ddala.
Okay, thank you. Honorable, do you think at this very moment it is possible for us to say we shall review our budget because of World Bank, saying they will not give us any new loans?
Thank you very much. My name is Basil Bataringa. I am Member of Parliament, Kashar North. First of all, it is too early to make any decision. However, the World Bank making a decision not to lend to Bank of Uganda will have some effects on the country. One, Bank of Uganda loans, World Bank loans are usually low interest loans and payable on a longer term basis. So once they decide not to lend to us, it means some of our operations, especially development expenditure, will be affected. So it is important that the Ministry of Finance now thinks about how to go about the situation. Fortunately, His Excellency has been going around making other friends across the continent, especially in view of the recent non-aligned movement meeting. So we expect that some people will chip in to help us. However, the advice to the country is that we will have to tighten our belts because we might expect budget cuts. And as the minister indicated, I'm very sure he will call the key committees of finance, budget, and national economy to meet and chart a way forward once the reality sets in that the World Bank is not lending to the country. No, we cannot call it wasteful expenditure. We can only call it, because the budget has priority areas. So those non-priority areas can be considered for budget cuts, but there is no wasteful expenditure. MPs don't approve wasteful expenditure.
Okay, honorable tutandikira awo. Budget minister agambye nti